Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to join us today for the seminar for Edzard Van Santen. Edzard has regrettably announced his retirement. He can't work forever, so we're torn between being thankful that he's at this place. He's worked hard for a very long time, developed a great reputation, but we're also really sad that he's going to be leaving us, and that help that we've had for so long is going to be harder to come by. So Edzard, thank you for the service that you provided. Now, we usually have these at 3 o'clock on Friday. Last week we had to cancel because of graduation. This week we looked all over campus for a room, and Preview has every room taken up. So again, thanks for letting us move to 11 o'clock. So I just want to say a couple of things and then make way, and he'll tell you about his life and his career. But I just want to say that Edzard has developed a very long and accomplished list of scientific accomplishments. He's a plant breeder by training, and he has released some truly outstanding varieties in his career. But as much as he's done on that front, what I believe his enduring legacy and what he'll ultimately be remembered for is the impact he's had on students. The mentoring that he has shown over the years, his willingness to work with people at tremendous length to make sure their experiments are done correctly, that their statistics are correct, the amount of time and the teaching that he has done on a one-on-one basis is truly a legendary thing that will be remembered for a very, very long time. So with that, Edzard, thank you for that service, and we're looking forward to your seminar.
Thank you. So welcome to my going away seminar. And I chose a kind of broad title, kind of taking you through 70 plus years of my life. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about geography, then family, and learn to be gracious. No one is an island, cultural learning, consider advice, and then last ending with my career. All these topics are really important to me. But before I do, a big thank you to a lot of people who do a lot of hard work. And if they don't do their work, if it doesn't work, then we complain. But we don't when they do a good job. And primarily the housekeeping staff, all the people you see in the morning when you come in, that you have a clean office. You notice when it's not. So next time when you go around, go and thank them. Yes, they get paid for it, but a thank you goes a long way. The physical plant staff, departmental support staff, we have several of you here. You can read the list. Not last, not least, the help desk at UF. Now, I have throughout my career at Auburn and UF, I have guarded my computer jealously. I will not, and Nella knows this, I will not let university staff touch my computer. I will ask for help, but I will not ask it. I will not give up that control. And I've done well over my career. But nevertheless, we need help. And the UF help desk, they have been tremendously helpful. And they usually get back in very short order. It all began 130,000 years ago. I was hoping you would laugh. It's so nice when an audience responds. My home is about here. That's where I grew up. It was covered with ice by the second to last glaciation, which actually was a series of glaciations in North America. Is known as Illinoisan glaciation. The red line is the most recent one, the Vistula or Wisconsin glaciation. This is the reason why northeastern Germany looks so much different from northwestern Germany. Anyway, what happened after the last glaciation, there's a lot of rainfall and peat moss started growing. These are the umbragen or rain-fed peats. They reached up to 10 meters in height. And at one point in the 18th century, the Dutch learned how to deal with peat moss by draining them, clearing off the old peat, digging the peat underneath, selling it as heating material, and then mixing the younger peat with the soil underneath and started growing crops. There are only two crops that tolerate acid soils, potato and cereal rye. And to this day, they determine the culinary habits of Northwest Germany. It's amazing. I mean, they have expanded in the meantime. I just noticed that there's an Indian restaurant opening close to where I grew up, so it's becoming more international. But the basic culinary habits were formed that way. Also, the prevalence for pork. I grew up on a small farm. We had dairy cows, and dairy cows are far too valuable to give them a place of honor at the table, in the middle of the table. That's why we eat pork and chickens, and even those, when they had outlived their usefulness. The pork we ate was rather aged and had they had a lot of miles on it. So no tender meat, and that also the culinary habits and the cooking methods reflect that. So I grew up in this little township here, Basel, which is about similar, actually almost exactly in area and size similar to Alachua. So you can kind of have a frame of reference. So if you want to do it, it's located halfway between Bremen and the northern Dutch city of Groningen. And I grew up on a canal. That's the drainage ditches. And this is what it looks like. These are not photoshopped. This is actually, look, this one, we start here. This is in the spring, noticeable by this light green color. So this picture was taken, the trees are leafing out, so I would suspect late April or so. This is a picture in the fall. No, this is not snow. Here, what you're seeing is reflection of the clouds. There was no wind there. And the canals has bridges and locks to let the ships through. At one point, until the late 50s, there was actually freight service on those canals. Now it's just pleasure boats. And if you ever come into this region, this is the local museum dedicated to the culture of that region. And what you see here is some big logs, oak logs found in the peat bogs. And the canal itself is 10 miles long. My little hamlet stretch is about less than 2 miles of that, with roughly about 300 people. And this is a homestead I grew up on here. And this area here, that's about 30 acres. We also happen to have the cemetery on our property, because it was at one point that neither Lutherans nor Catholics would bury Baptists and Methodists and diverse other religions in their cemetery. So my grandfather donated the land. And this is a house I grew up in. This is a typical house in our region, sometimes referred to as brick Gothic, because everything is red brick. And so what you have here is the living quarters here, and then the barn attached to it. And this is the barn here. And this is from the back. You can see that. And yes, it snows where I grew up, but not nearly as heavy and as often as it did in the 60s. Family. Anybody who's been exposed to me for brief period of times know that I start talking about my family almost immediately, right? And one, of course, is the one that you're born or adopted into. The second one, like Vicky and I, we had through partnership. And the other part is you create a family. You adopt people into your family. And you can guess who made this quote here. And in fact, yeah, let's leave it like that. These are some pictures that I grew up on. So this is my dad and his next older brother, Meinhard, and don't have the date, but from the facial expression, I suspect it's mid-30s. This is my mom, Berta, and her parents and her 9 younger siblings. In fact, she had to leave school after 6th grade to help me raise her younger siblings. Judging from, this is my youngest aunt who is not deceased, This picture was probably taken in before probably 43 or 1943 or so. And this is late 50s. Can you guess which one am I? Yeah, it's clear. It's very clear, very clear. And this is Marga, my older sister. She is 3 years older than I am. Rita is 1 year older, and Hans-Georg is 1 year younger. Fast forward 6 years, there were some more siblings there, and Anna was born 63, so this is probably 64 in the spring. And fast forward another 20 years, 1988. These are all my siblings and my parents. And at the bottom here, you'll see probably the first picture that shows both Vicky and I in the same picture. This was a youth Bible study group at church where I went to school. That's where we are. Adopted family. Heimo and Petra Wirth showed up in Auburn in 2007. They were assigned by their German company to work there. I'm not sure if you've ever experienced this, but when I met Heimo and Petra, I had the feeling I had known them all my life. Never met them, but I'd known them all my life. I don't know if you have ever had that's an incredible experience. And I know that one other person here, and that is Julia and Andresa Freitas. They didn't meet, they met here, and they told me it was the same thing, those two. Anyway, they had the two little girls. Amelie, the younger one, she was just about to enter first grade. And so we've been friends for almost 30 years. No, 20. Yeah, almost 20, not 30, 20. Let's give it a look. The other one is this lady here, Annika. She came to Auburn to do an internship and then became a grad student with Steve, you know, Andy Price. She was Andy Price's student and I was co-advisor. And yeah, the relationship morphed from mentor-student to a friendship and family. I consider a family. In fact, our new home where we're going to be living for the summer, it's only about 15 miles away from where they live. And so Andre, her husband, and then Roman, their older boy, and Simon, the younger one, he entered first grade. And in Germany, you have the tradition to get this, whatever you call that in English, I don't know. Pardon? Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, that's a tradition in Germany. And notice here the Auburn fabric, which I contributed to the effort. They have been dear friends for a long time. I'll just take you briefly through my life there. I was born in 53, then did elementary school, and then in 64 moved to the advanced school in German called Gymnasium. Finished the Abitur, the exit exam in 72, and then same year started my academic career in Marburg at the Philipps University in biology and chemistry. Finished with the Staatsexamen state boards for teaching. I was originally destined to become a high school biology and chemistry teacher, and then decided not to. Moved to the S, and then in August 5th, right, 1978. I never forgot. Married Vicky, or she married me, whatever the case may be.
And the reason for moving to the US should be obvious there.
Yeah, because she had a side point is she grew up in central Kansas, small town McPherson, Kansas, went to a small Church of the Brethren college, which in its heyday had probably 450 students when you were there. In the meantime, they have more. But her biology graduating class consists of about 6 people? 4. Okay, I overestimated by 50%. 4. Yet she was able to get a National Science Foundation Merit Fellowship. And so she didn't want to give that up to be married to me. What a bummer, right? No, in the end, it all worked out. Anyway, learning to be gracious, that's something that didn't come natural to me. And Particularly, it became important after my accident. For those of you who do not know me, I'm the proud owner of a prosthesis, left BKA because I happened to step in front of a sickle bar mower 14 years ago in November. So I'm a teenager now. And anyway, one of the earliest instances was my son-in-law, Christina, our oldest, and my son-in-law were visiting, and he took me to the DMV to get a handicap tag. Was sitting in my wheelchair, back propped up. There was a dad with his 2 young boys there, probably about 2, and the 2 boys came over and stroked my leg. Yeah, I'm still losing it when I talk about that. These 2 tykes, they had an intuitive feel that somebody needed healing. Second one was about 6 months after the accident, I went to Germany. I had to show myself to my mother. Because my mother, yeah, she read that I was doing okay, but she never really believed it. It's just, my mother was in biblical terms, a doubting Thomas. She had to see me. So I pulled up, got out of the car, and immediately she did this. And then I walked to her, closed my eyes, and I see her smile, that biggest smile you can ever, and the smile of relief. And after that, she was okay. Fast forward another 6 months, we were visiting friends in Bavaria, the Wirt family, and they took us to the famous monastery, Andechs Monastery, beautiful Baroque church. We were visiting. There was a family there, was 1 or 2 girls. Do you remember?
I think just one.
Just 1 girl. The girl pointed, at that time I was, like I usually use, wearing shorts because I had to make frequent adjustments. And the girl pointed there. And the mother, without missing a beat, said, "Isn't it nice that the man can still walk?" There was no hesitation whatsoever. And those 3 things that's emotional capital I will live off my rest of my days. Another one was, and this is where the graciousness comes in, that one of my colleagues was visiting me, and I had great support. What helped me through this, I had obviously the family, but my church family, my colleagues. One of my colleagues came and we talked, and he says, "We talked about you," and said, "If it had to happen to one of us, we're glad it happened to you." Yeah, same here. You go like this. And then he said, "Because we knew you would be able to handle it emotionally." Obviously, my colleagues had seen something in me that I hadn't seen in myself. Now, nobody gets up. I don't know about you, but I don't get up in the morning, look in the mirror and say, how am I going to react if something bad happens to me? That's not how we are wired as humans. We deal with it after the fact. But that's where I have to learn gracious, be gracious. And it's the same when somebody has a loss, a death in the family. There's really nothing you can say. The best thing you can actually do is give that person a hug. Much better than anything you could say. If you say something, you find it in the advice column or Facebook, people complaining, how dare they say? No, they just have to realize they're just as lost as you are. And I think that's something that you have to learn. No man is an island. I mean, we live in the age of hyper-individualism. No, you are bound. We are humans. We are bound within a social network. In my case, my parents had a great influence on my development. My mother, as I mentioned, left school after 6th grade. My dad finished 8th grade because that was all that was available. But they valued education. They never forced us. But they valued education. And my dad was one of the most well-read people I know. Also, my love for geography I inherited from him. Because it's just a curiosity about the world around you. And my elementary school teacher, Miss Engelman, I never had a chance to thank her because after I left, a short time while she's succumbed to breast cancer. This was in the early 60s. But she fostered me. She saw my potential. my high school biology teacher, Pater Hunselmann, and I don't know what religious order he was, but he was passionate about biology. Then my academic advisor, Professor Dr. Ingeborg Lenski, and some of us know a person, those of you at the invasive weeds, you know Colette, right, Giacono, passionate botanist. And she reminded me, and Colette and I got along, and because of that resemblance. And my in-laws. My mother-in-law actually comes out of an academic family. Her grandfather was a college professor at the small college. But my father-in-law was first generation graduate. He went to college on the GI Bill because he was involved in the latter part of the war. And Vicky and I were relieved that our fathers weren't shooting at each other 20 some years earlier, because my dad was in Russia and her dad was slogging through the Po Valley. They believed in me, because when I started graduate school, Mike Castle, my advisor, didn't have money. He said, you can come this year, 82, or you can wait a year. I decided to come because Vicky had just accepted a postdoc. And they loaned me $5,000. This was 1982, a lot of money. So I could pay tuition. Had they not, I wouldn't be here because the Auburn position wouldn't have been open. We would probably have never met. But they believed me. At that point, they'd known me 6, maybe 7 years, right? And apparently they approved of the choice their daughter made. Great. Then Bob Forsberg. He was an oat breeder and department head at UW. He just passed away in March. Bob invited me to visit UW, visit the agronomy department there. He took me to the field and in one afternoon convinced me that the eye is an incredibly sensitive instrument. They did visual ratings. I don't want to elaborate on it. If you want later, you can ask me. It's a great story. And then our own Dr. Q, as he's known. Ken Kresenbury did a sabbatical at the Dairy Forge Research Center in, I think it was 87. And so he talked to me about Auburn and the Southern schools. Southern schools for Northern and Southern schools are not really on the radar, not at that point. That has changed in a minute, but at that point it wasn't. So he convinced me that I should give it a try. Then obviously my advisor, and it was a rather tense relationship early on. And then over the years, we became professional friends and now personal friends. And Win Davies, I'm considered my American dad. We joined their church for them at a critical time, and their daughters, I bore striking resemblance to a son they had tragically lost a year before. And their daughters made the arguments they had either drive us out of the church or adopt us. And fortunately, they adopted us. Great, great guy. And then, of course, Vicky, would you come up, please? You haven't met us. This is Dr. Vicky van Santen, otherwise known as my better half. And we will have been married in August 5th will be 47 years. Yes?
And how many anniversaries have we spent together? Maybe one?
Yeah, because it's always, there were always professional meetings in the way, so you can do it. Thank you. So let me just move on to and there she is in her natural habitat outside. On the left here, I think that was hiking with Hugo and Catalina and Felix, right?
Only Catalina.
Only Catalina, okay, with her daughter, some mother-daughter time here. This picture on the right was taken in at a particular bench at the Utrechtse Heuvelrug, a nature preserve close to Utrecht, or close to Zeist actually. And what you see here, the arm, that's mine. I just photoshopped myself crop myself out. But we kind of, even if we did, and we always wound up at that bench together. And there are our kids and grandkids. So this is Christina, our oldest one, who in looks, mannerisms reminds me of my mother. And that's why she has a middle name, my mother. And Tillman, her husband, and the three C's, the low C, Carl, the middle C, Conrad, and the high C, Konstantin. And then Jakob, our son, and his wife, Anna. The connection there is that Anna was an exchange student living with us. We met her parents through an exchange program. And my two apostles, Peter and Paul. And then Katharina, our youngest one, and Matt, her husband, with Felix and little Hugo, who had just had his 3rd birthday. And there's a nice picture. This is my favorite picture. Nobody else seems to like it, but I love it. I call it a culture of learning. It is a basic curiosity about life. And realizing that knowledge is precious is own side. Knowledge doesn't have to have a utility, doesn't have to, but knowledge, learning something is of value in and of itself because it shapes your outlook on life. And the way I put it, every day that I learn something new is a good day. It doesn't have to be something earth-shaking. Maybe it just means you see a newspaper, you realize, okay, let me look where in India or whatever is this person from. Obviously, some of the things you learn, that's why you are for students in graduate school, that helped you for your professional development. Others have no effect. But I'm absolutely convinced that reading is absolutely essential for intellectual, emotional, and spiritual development. And listening and watching doesn't do the same thing. If you watch something, for example, there's a famous novel that's been turned into a movie. First of all, the movie only remotely resembles the novel. Secondly, they already do some of the pre-processing for you. Same when you listen to something, they the tone, inflection of the reader will influence how you perceive the information. When you read, it's just you and the written word, and everything happens in your head. All the images you develop yourself, and I think that is a big value of reading. And numerous studies, and in fact, there was just a study published by Auburn Early Childhood Development, like that, where they in fact followed kids who had been read to and also were learned reading. It's great story. Advice, right? Realize that most advice is given freely and free. There's no charge, unless you go to the financial advisor or legal counsel, but in general, it's not. But you can assume that the person giving advice has an interest in you and has good intentions. So don't dismiss it out of hand, but consider it carefully. Doesn't mean you have to accept it. I mean, it's free advice, so you know what they say about it. Secondly, for younger, for everyone, is either find or be a mentor. And it could be an individual, could be a group of friends, but no man is an island. No woman, man is an island. We are bound into a social network. Now, let me give you 3 examples of this from my life. First of all, financial. When I was finishing, and I don't know who got and taking my first job, and I don't know who it was, said to me, always spend the last pay raise, not the current one. And you have to think about it a minute. I like subtlety. He could have said, just make sure your expectations don't exceed your income. But expressing it and forces you to think about this. And that was really good advice. And we have followed it. Second one is we were asked if we were planning, after we got married, if we're planning on having children. I cannot remember it was male or female who asked us, but they told us have your children while you're in graduate school. And the reason given is later on you will discover that you had never had more money than at that time. Objectively, of course, it's total nonsense. Subjectively, it was right on the money. I came to this country with 2 suitcases. Mind you, I will leave with none. My dorm room for this 6 years was less than half the size of my office in McCarty. Vicky was in a similar situation, except for the suitcases. But
Couch and a desk.
okay, yeah. Anyway, and if, of course, if you ask that question nowadays, again, you would light up the advice columns and Facebook. How dare they ask this question? But it was of interest. They were interested in us. And that's what you have to, this is where this gracious ties in with this graciousness. It's not all about you. Anyway, we discovered that we had our children. Christina, our oldest one, was born while Vicky was in graduate school, and the other 2 while I was in graduate school. And our youngest one, Katarina, who is now 38, will be 30, no, 38, yeah. No, it must be 37 because, no, 38, it's 70, 87 to 25, yeah. She was a year old when I graduated. The last one, never turned down a job you haven't been offered, and people who've been exposed to me know that I use that all the time. But it goes back to Stan Peloquin, a potato breeder and hortic department at UW-Madison, who was a member of my committee, and even 10 years after retirement was just as excited about the topic of potato breeding and plant breeding in general as he was on the first day. So this is what he said, never turn down a job you haven't been offered. And then for the students, what that means is if you do not apply for a job that you're remotely qualified for, you've turned down that job. And the beauty of that, the interview process, is that the first step is yours and the last step is yours, and you have very little control over what happens in between. You don't know what happened. I mean, you put your best foot forward, of course, but you don't have any control over the committee. Again, you try to do best job in your interview, but what happens else, you don't have control. The control you have, again, if you are offered the position, then you can make a decision. Do I want it or do I not want it? Didn't list here, but his second sentence was, it is easier to look for a job when you already have one. That's kind of the corollary to this. So let me finish with my career. I'm a male war bride. The reason I call myself that is 2 reasons. One, there was a late 40s movie with Gary Grant with that title. In our case, what it is Vicky had to apply for a visa for me to come to this country. And this visa was created for American service personnel so they could bring their war brides home. Conditions were, after arriving, we had to get married within 3 months, and I had to apply for a green card. So I came in July 17th. We got married August 5th. By late August, we did the application, and I believe I had my green card in October. That's why they call it the good old days. That don't happen. Funny thing about the interview, we had to do a personal interview, and they didn't even ask Vicky for her ID. I could have grabbed anyone off the street. They did not, and I'm not making this up. You cannot make up this stuff. They did not ask her for her ID. And of course, now you need an ID just to open the front door. if you go to any government facility. But anyway, I was able to get a job, and I worked for 4 years under Dale Schaller as a research technician in stable isotope labs. And in fact, my claim to fame is that there's a 1982 publication with my name on it, is the use of doubly labeled water to estimate energy metabolism in humans. Paper is over 40 years old and gets cited probably at least once a month. And that experience taught me also that the way we measure productivity is a short term, and it's not the way to go. But I'm not going to change that. I know that. But short term, if you go in a hot topic, yeah. But in a slow moving topic, areas like agronomy and plant breeding tends to be, it's not that way. Anyway, did that. Then I told you, moved to University of Wisconsin in my Castles group, and 85 did my master's. And even before that, I think it was either in 83 or 84, he offered me the chance to go on. So I was in an unusual situation. I did 6 years. I had the opportunity to develop my genetic material and also evaluate that. And then 88, achieved my PhD in plant breeding, plant genetics with a minor in statistics. And then was offered in early 1988, 6 months before I even graduated, was offered the position as a grass breeder at Auburn University in then the Department of Agronomy and Soils. And then spent, you can see the dates. And then in 2015, I get a call from Wes Wood. Some of you know, station director in West in J. And Wes and I were on faculty together, and we did some research together. He called me up and told me about this position and told me that he thought I would be an ideal candidate for that. But he knew me well enough that I wasn't going to act on it. So he pulled a fast one. I believe he nominated me, right? And you sent me a letter, Kevin. So then I was obligated. But when I did, I turned around and I nominated a colleague of mine from Clemson, whom I value highly. And what you're looking at is actually second choice. Right? I was not the first choice. So I interviewed. Kevin told me it's going to take 4 weeks or so for this whole all this to shake out, because there were departments involved. And so Vicky and I went to Germany, went on a long bike ride, and somewhere around north of Hamburg along the Elbe River, I had an email exchange with Kevin, and telling me that they had offered the job to my colleague. I'm pretty sure it was her. I didn't know, of course, but pretty sure. And and Vicky can attest to that. I put it behind me and went on my merry way. I had fulfilled my professional and collegial obligations, and I was going on. Nothing had really changed. I had a great visit during my interview. So that's fine. We finished our bike tour, and I'd barely gotten back home when I get a call from the dean's office asking me if I was still interested in the position, because their candidate had declined. I said yes. So get a call from Dr. Gilbert and made all the offers. And then after I got off the phone, I called my colleague at Clemson and said, Julia, is there something that I missed? I understand you turned down the position. Is there something that I missed? Now, you have to know, in my family, I'm not known as the most perceptive person in the world. In fact, most of my family thinks I'm clueless. But they're my family. In particular, my youngest sister once claimed that I was simply woven, in English, einfach gestrickt, which is in German is not a compliment. But in the South, we would say bless her heart, she's my sister. And obviously she saw something in me that I hadn't really realized. We all think we are so sophisticated. I'm not. And she helped me realize that. Anyway, no, she told me it had nothing to do with, it had to do with her personal family situation. She had a baby with a preemie, and so she wasn't feeling comfortable to do that. In the meantime, she is at Colorado State. But anyway, so then I mentioned the topic of a spousal hire because Vicky is a faculty member in the vet school, a virologist, but she's been working on chickens. He promised me that he would look into that. Took 4 weeks, but in the end, they couldn't make it work. Because if you've ever been involved, there are so many moving parts in spousal hire. It's hard to make them work. Anyway, in the end, I agreed to come here, and a decision I had never regretted. In fact, it's been great. It's been great for my professional development. Good thing is Auburn didn't really care whether I left or stayed or left. That was, in the moment, was a little hard to take because the dean at that time, I had helped a lot of his students. And I thought it was a little ungracious not to talk to me at all. But be it as it may, it worked out for the best. So at our career, Dr. Farrell already mentioned my variety releases. And so I've covered a lot of different species. The first one was really the AU Robin Crimson Clover. It's hallmark, it's an early variety, and actually Vicky named it. You know, the early worm gets a bird kind of situation. Then the second to last, AU Dawn Ball Clover, I named it. And for those of you in forage, know why. There's a guy, Don Ball, forage extension agronomist, and I thought the perfect opportunity to honor a valued colleague and a personal friend, Don Ball. And lastly, this AU Victory Creeping Bentgrass, which is economically probably my greatest success. My involvement there is I realized an opportunity. I didn't do the breeding. Mother Nature did it itself. The base material for this variety was selected in 1999, 2000, when there were two years of extreme droughts. And even high-end courses, they didn't have their own water source. They relied on municipal water. And the municipalities said, okay, sorry, guys, but we need the water someplace else. So they initially pumped out their pools and so on, and then they let the greens die. And that's when I saw an opportunity. You have a 2,000 square foot green, and there may have been 5, 6 green spots on that. Could be just chance, but there's a good chance there was a genetic basis for it. So I picked these up. Picked up about 300, put them at our most northern station near Huntsville, and then told the super, just mow them, don't water them, just let them go. If they live, they live. If they die, they die. A couple of years later, I found my partner in crime, as I call her, Virginia Lehman. I should say Dr. Virginia Lehman. She is married, of course, to Milt Engelke, who was a turf breeder at Texas Ag in Dallas, and she was looking for, and she and I developed this program. She did the selection in Oregon for seed production traits, and I did for forage quality trait. The upshot is this variety has incredible drought tolerance because it is summer active growing the roots, and it has a great rooting depth. My other big claim to fame is the management insight, and that relates to annual ryegrass. At one point, I realized that annual ryegrass is simply an agronomic weed because it has all the hallmarks of an agronomic weed: prolific seed production, highly responsive to nitrogen, and it germinates anywhere, including cracks in your driveway. Turned around and said, okay, if that's the case, why don't we manage it like that? Particularly when it comes to planting. Don't treat it like a grain crop where you prepare a good seed bed and wait for optimum moisture. Throw it out there when it needs to be thrown out there. If it's dry, the seed won't hurt, won't suffer. If it's wet, it will germinate. And there are at least two farmers in Alabama who followed my advice. The rest of them I don't know. The two of them have told me, and they've done well. Then I got into statistical consulting. I never had an official appointment, but I saw the need for it in the late 1990s because Auburn had lost all their statistical consulting group. The experimentation director, in his ultimate wisdom, decided not to fill the position as the people retired. At one point, Auburn had 3 PhD level consulting statisticians. By the end of the 90s, we were left with none. It was okay for a couple of years, and then students got their papers rejected for inadequate statistical analysis. And that's when I realized that I received so much more personal satisfaction from helping students than I did with anything else I did. Fortunately, the system was flexible enough so I could morph my program. I still maintained a breeding program, but put more emphasis on the consulting. Now, 2 early projects. One was a PhD student in plant pathology. She was working on plant growth promoting bacteria. She'd done her experiments, dutifully analyzed each experiment separately and submitted it to, I think it was Phytopath, and got rejected for inadequate analysis. Her advisor and I were friends. And he told her to come and talk to me. I helped her. The paper flew. And my batting average for getting involved in papers that have been rejected is 1,000. I never had one rejected that was initially rejected after I got involved. Now, that's all the bragging you'll hear from me. The other example could have been almost tragic. A resident in vet school, they have the DVM, they're teaching faculty, and they often pursue an academic degree. She'd done that 2 years, taking her data to the statistician who was paid by the Ag Experiment Station to analyze the data.
Paid by the vet school.
But,
Paid by the vet school.
oh, he was even paid by the vet school. Okay. That person, I'm glad I don't remember the name, told the student that her data couldn't be analyzed. And talk about cruelty. I don't know what drove that person. Now, any data set can be analyzed. It may be less than optimal, but you can analyze all data if you have replication, of course. That's one of the caveats here. But so Vicky had her in class and suggested that she come and talk to me. So she came, sat down in my office. If I had said boo, she probably would have melted. Gave me her data. I didn't make any promises. All I promised her, I would look at them carefully. So I went home, and yeah, I must have made myself coffee because it was before 4, so I wouldn't have a beer. Yeah? Kein Bier vor 4 is a German saying. You know that one? So it was probably my other beverage of choice, coffee. Put up my feet on and looked at the data and realized that this lady had designed an almost perfect experiment. She had an intuitive sense of good experiment design. And that's really what experiment design is. It's intuitive. If you think about it, that's the way it should be. Unfortunately, most people go at cookbooking. They look, oh yeah, this fits my situation and so on, rather than thinking about it. Those are just examples that you see. They are sanitized examples to make a point, but they rarely reflect reality. Anyway, once I realized that, I told her, and it took me, I think, 2 days to prepare the tables and figures, and she was on her merry way. And in the meantime, what she is?
She's a She's Assistant Associate Dean for Academic Affairs.
Okay, so it was a valuable time, and she did well after that. But I cannot understand people doing that. And then in terms of teaching, since I was a classically trained cytogeneticist, I did cytogenetics, but I don't think there's even a cytogenetics course anymore. That's time's gone. I taught advanced plant breeding, a literature-based course with dig into the primary literature. And my main course was experimental methods, what I call experimental design and data analysis. And there I did the same approach I took at UF. This was an existing course and I morphed it without ever going through the official channels. Anybody in the College of Agriculture, College of Vet Met, they knew what I was teaching. And they came. The other course that I taught for 3 years was Introduction to Biological Statistics, because there was a need for it. That was officially assigned to statistics department, but it was just a course that was assigned to a faculty member with the lowest seniority. And you can tell a lot about collegial relationships the way courses are assigned. In the College of Mathematics and Science, it was a hierarchical relationship, which is not the way we do business in the College of Agriculture. Thank goodness. Anyway, if you're ever looking for it, this is a really good introstats book written by 2 evolutionary biologists from British Columbia, but really great textbook. And there's a whole story of getting this approved. I won't bore you with that. And then at UF, taught experiment design and data analysis every year. Try to do a kind of smaller courses, Excel as a research tool, Jump as a research tool, but they never took off because it didn't fit in the mindset. So I stopped that. But we did a lot of statistical training in the early years with site visits at the RECs, and then switching with COVID, switching to online. Then we created this teams for statistical consulting as a unit, as a resource. And then last 2 years done these first Friday stat talks. And give me a chance to thank Phil Hahn for doing 2 of those seminars on generalized linear mixed models. Now, statistical consulting unit. The key to access are 2 guys. Simon, James, please rise. These 2 guys make the unit work. James has been with us since 2007, 2008. So he long predates me. Simon has been with us since 23.
Full time since 22.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. These guys make it work. In fact, James, I nominated James for the Long-Term Superior Accomplishment Award, and he got it with flying colors for IFAS at the university level. Someone else got that honor, but it's well deserved. In fact, for many years I had to tell James, leave a project for me, because the minute it came up, he had snatched it. And in the meantime, we've come a good, I think have a good kind of split of what we're doing. James is doing in fact, all the consulting for food science, human nutrition, and also the vet school. And Simon and I kind of share the rest. We have a 48-hour initial response time. So if you submit your request Friday evening at 5 p.m., don't expect to hear from us till Monday morning, but we often do. In fact, we often respond within an hour, make the initial contact. We created years ago the basic data quality protocol, which probably really hasn't, people mostly ignored it. The big problem is that the physical unit on which observations are taken is missing. All the people who take data have that information, but magically, when the data comes to us, that's missing. Obviously, if you have any kind of repeated measures situation, that's kind of critical. Still to this day, most data sets require a lot of work. Now, I have had some data sets that they are pretty much perfect. But most of the data require a lot of kind of data carpentry, as the R people call it, basic data cleaning. And we deal with about 250, 300 requests. So that's one request for every working day, and so on. And some requests are simple. I have one that I got yesterday that I'll finish this afternoon, be done with. Others, like with a former student at the Citrus Research Station, and she's now a postdoc in Lake Alfred. I first started working with her in 2018, but she's leaving UF to take a job at Utah State. So the long-term relationships. And our role is, more often than not, we are data morticians, laying bad data set to rest with as much dignity as we can muster. We would rather be obstetricians at the conception of the blessed event. In fact, the consulting project I just mentioned, I just wish they had talked to us before they did this, and we could have a lot of problems. And the request revolves the data. She has it's not she, I don't even know what gender, but it's basically a Likert scale, a multinomial set with 4 reps. Can't do a multinomial analysis with just 4 observations. So either switch how you take the data, or so again, would have been much easier had they talked to us beforehand. Now, with some of you, and this, I know the same is true for James and Simon, we have developed a relationship, and that people ask us before. And in my case, one very good relationship is with Sandra Barbara Wilson from Environmental Hort, and her husband, Patrick Wilson, in Soil and Water Science. They come to me before they do. And then developing a design that actually works, and an approach that works, that doesn't give them a specific answer, but gives them a statistically valid answer. And yeah, you've noted a lot of biblical reference, but that's the way my upbringing is. We pave the way. If we design experiments, ensuring data integrity, and then our work usually ends before the glory of the publication begins. Lastly, this is my last slide. I retired in April 9 years ago from Auburn, and I looked a lot younger then. I've aged a little bit, but primary reason is to honor Dr. Joe Touchton, who passed away in April. He is really the only department head I've known in my years at Auburn. I had 2 years. John Beasley was department head 2 years before I left, but the remaining time was Joe Touchton. And Joe was I would call a reluctant warrior. He took the job because it needed doing. And Joe's mantra was always, you don't make progress on the backs of others. Bad-mouthing, trash-talking your colleagues does not advance your career. That's not the way to do it. And Joe was eminently fair. And you could trust Joe. If Joe had told me, I will do this for you, he would. Steve knows that. And to me, it's really the epitome of a good department head. He was not in it for his own glory, but to foster the department, advance the department. And speaking of simple approaches, I believe that most people who talk about leadership wouldn't know leadership if it hit them squarely in the face. People make a lot of big pronouncements about leadership. Leadership is first and foremost taking care of the people who have been assigned to you. If you cannot do that, you are not a leader. I don't know how many pronouncements you make. And it's very similar to a family. Out in public, you praise your kids about things that your kids are the best things that happened to the earth since its inception. If you have beef with your children, you do that at home. You do not dress down your people or take issue with your people in public. That is not leadership. No? You can take it as it is. I know I have a simple, maybe even a simplistic approach. That's mine. May not be yours, and that's fine. That's fine. So that's it. I overstayed my welcome by 15 minutes, but thank you.
Edzard, you absolutely not overstayed your welcome. Thank you for that. I really appreciate you taking us on this journey with you. It's been an amazing career, and I'm very thankful that it's not going to end by the end of this month. You're going to continue to do some things and finish up, right?
Yeah, I finish up, and I'll tell people that I'll stop drawing a paycheck because I've earned enough money in my lifetime. I don't need any more, but I will not stop working. I love this stuff too much. I mean, you give me an opening experiment design, I'm all in.
All right, so he just said he's willing to work for free, so that.
But I have the first right of refusal. I can always say no, and I've never had any problem saying no. So that's.
Well, thank you for all of this. So unfortunately, it's not the end of the day yet, but it doesn't mean we're not going to get together this afternoon. So we'll get together around 4:30 or so at First Magnitude. Let's continue this conversation. Let's continue to enjoy what Edzard has done through his career, and it'll be an opportunity. There'll be some hors d'oeuvres there. So join us this afternoon. We'll continue the conversation.
Wes you had a question?
Not a question. I just, Edzard, I don't know if you realize it or not, but we've known each other for 35 years. And colleagues and friends for a long time. And I just want to congratulate you for an excellent career and wish you the best in retirement. And just carry on being Edzard. That's it.
I want to say hi, Wes.
Can I make a quick comment too before we get off?
Yes, you may.
I have to say that you made me question my life choices. So when I was working on accepting my position here in central Wisconsin, you told me that back in your day, you stood here at the Marshall Lake Research Station freezing in May, and coming from Florida, I questioned, like, wait, what am I getting myself into? But no, everything worked out in the end, and just wanted to give you a huge thanks. And I still reference all the material that you've given me through these years from the courses back in my time.
Thank you, then.
You have some comments in the chat.
Okay,
if
yeah,
you wanna see them.
Okay, Francisca Hinz from Soil and Water Science says thank you. And Evelyn or Prissy Fletcher, she is over there. She's saying me, I'm working with her right now. And then some of you know Andresa Freitas. She was over in with Dr. Nair's lab in soil and water science. And she morphed from a client to a personal friend. In fact, I will visit her. She is now at the University of Southern Denmark, and I will visit her in September and do some statistical training over there. It's just an excuse to go on a long bike ride, folks.
And I was gonna say, he's gonna be doing statistical consulting, but bike trips have priority.
Yeah. And then, of course, you know, Marta Coleman, she is now at UW. And so Thank you very much.